Hi everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Always Active podcast, the show that empowers you to lead an active lifestyle. I'm your host, Katie, and in this episode, I'll be introducing the show as well as the different segments that will be included in each episode. I'll also be sharing my fitness journey with you, and I'll be sharing community responses to questions that I asked you over on Instagram about your fitness journey. So, without further ado, let's get psyched to move. I'm super excited to be recording the first ever episode of this show and wanted to quickly explain what it's all about in case you haven't already listened to the trailer. So my reasoning for starting this podcast is so that I can have a longer form content platform to chat about different topics that can help you on your fitness journey. And my goal is that through using a long form platform, it can really just bring you more value as a member of the community. On this show, I'll be sharing research-backed tips that I've learned from my personal experiences as well as through my kinesiology degrees. And a little bit of an explanation of the name of the podcast, Always Active. There are actually two meanings to this name. So the first meaning is because the goal of this show is to help you make physical activity part of your lifestyle so that you're always active. And then the second meaning comes from the fact that I'll be featuring your submissions in each episode so we can learn from each other about all the different ways that we can go about leading an active lifestyle. And I really want to thank you for being here and for all the support that you've shown so far. The response to my launch of the podcast has been more than I could have asked for. So thank you for everything. Welcome to the humble beginnings of this podcast, and I'm excited for us to grow together. Like I mentioned, today I'll be introducing the different segments that will be featured in each episode of the podcast. And the first segment is our study spotlight, where I'll share research findings from the field of exercise psychology and provide you with some actionable takeaways that you can actually use in your life to become more motivated. To kick things off, I wanted to highlight a study that spoke about variety and how this impacts our motivation to exercise. And I felt that this was really on brand for the overall theme of the show. So a 2018 study was interested in understanding how variety affects exercise motivation as well as our exercise behavior. And it was also interested in understanding how feelings of confidence, connection, and choice affect this relationship between variety and motivation. Variety can refer to doing different types of exercise, so for example, cardio, strength, or flexibility training. But it can also refer to different features of the exercise environment. For example, having a variety of different equipment options to choose from within a particular setting. And so the study found that variety was positively associated with motivation to exercise and behavior. And it was suggested that the reason for this might be because variety helps to increase our interest and enjoyment. Variety might be especially important for people who lack a sense of connection, lack confidence in their abilities, or lack a sense of choice when exercising. So this means that incorporating variety into your fitness routine may help to increase your motivation. This might look like including different types of activities in your schedule throughout the week. For example, I like to include weightlifting, yoga, Pilates, and walking workouts throughout my routine. It might also look like including a variety of different exercise within a given type of training. So for example, something that keeps me motivated to stick to my gym routine is having a program that changes every week and includes lots of different fun exercises and movements to keep me interested throughout. So that way I'm not doing the exact same thing every single week. So hopefully findings from this study are interesting to you and it's something that you can actually apply in your routine to help you to become more motivated. On to our next segment, which is the movement mindset. So every episode, I'll feature something that's recently been on my mind when it comes to health and fitness. I feel like I'm constantly experiencing mindset shifts and learning new things on this journey. And so this is where I'll keep you up to date on the things that I've been learning and experiencing. And I'd love to feature your movement mindsets as well. So be sure to share these with me on Instagram if you're having any revelations when it comes to your fitness journey. Today's movement mindset is to ditch the all or nothing mentality. Now, what inspired me to think of this? Lately, I've been going for short walks to break up my workday, and I figured out one route that takes me 11 minutes to complete and one route that takes me 23 minutes to complete. Rather than telling myself that I need to go for an hour-long walk in order for it to quote-unquote count, I'm happy with squeezing in this short walk, and I experienced the mood-boosting benefits of exercise and getting some fresh air all within this process. In the past, if I didn't have at least half an hour to dedicate to some kind of exercise like going for a walk, then I probably wouldn't have done it. But now I realize that if I only have 10 minutes, then doing 10 minutes of something is better than doing 0 minutes. So hopefully this resonates with you, and maybe you can start thinking about small ways to squeeze in movement throughout your day so that you can also ditch this all or nothing mentality. Moving on to the main topic of today's episode, I thought it would be fun to share my fitness journey so that you can get to know me a little bit better and also understand my perspective when it comes to health and fitness, kind of where I'm coming from on this journey. My plan is also to bring guests onto this podcast where they can share their fitness journeys, so I figured what better way to kick off the show than to share my journey with you. So if we rewind all the way to the beginning of my fitness journey, I started playing competitive soccer when I was 9 years old. And I'm really grateful that I had this opportunity because during these years, I developed some foundational exercise habits because exercise has been a part of my life ever since I was a kid. I also, of course, developed teamwork and self-discipline throughout this process, which was important. Soccer definitely consumed most of my life outside of school when I was younger. I didn't really have time to do very many other things outside of school aside from soccer, games and practices, and fitness training. At this time, I was exercising a lot, maybe too much, but that's a topic for another day. And it was also during this time that I discovered cross country and track and field, and I learned that I enjoy long distance running. So moving on to becoming a teenager around the start of high school, I started taking an interest in things like flexibility and strength training. Up to this point, I had pretty much only been doing cardio and soccer-specific training, so this was something new for me. And I remember being intrigued, but not really having any idea what to do. So in addition to continuing to play soccer 5 to 6 times a week, which again included games and practices, I started trying out different apps. I started trying out those photos of workouts online. I don't know if anyone remembers the 30-day squat challenge or 30-day splits challenge, but those kind of things that you would find on websites like Tumblr. And I also followed YouTube videos. And at this point, I was doing mostly body weight exercises because I didn't have any equipment. And I really want to emphasize here that I didn't have any guidance. I didn't really know where to seek guidance. And I overall just lacked knowledge on what to do. So after a couple years of this, it was around the time that as part of my soccer team's training, we started including weekly fitness sessions. And I distinctly remember that in grade 11, so I was about 16 years old, we started going to a gym for group fitness training. And we did things like spin classes as well as soccer-specific strength training sessions that was designed to improve our athletic performance. And I remember that most of the girls on my team hated fitness training, but I loved it. And it eventually got to the point where my favorite part about soccer wasn't really the sport anymore, but it was the weekly fitness sessions that I liked the best. As a side note, I started taking advantage of the summer fitness program at my local gym, which was free for teens. And I liked doing group fitness classes there, but I mainly stuck to using the strength and cardio machines at the gym. And I actually remember as part of the orientation, a personal trainer showed me how to use the basic machines. But I didn't quite have the knowledge and skills or confidence yet to use the free weights. I was also on the cross country team at my high school during this time. And in grade 12, I got a membership to the fitness center at my high school. And I asked for an orientation, and one of the phys ed teachers at my school showed me how to use all the equipment and taught me different exercises to do, which was super helpful. So between having the guidance of my teacher as well as the guidance of the trainer for my soccer team, I was starting to learn different exercises, techniques, and things that I could eventually carry on when I started to work out independently. Also, at this point, the group training for my soccer had started to become more like semi-private training because few of the girls on my team had opted in for fitness training, which again was kind of nice to have that more personalized attention when learning these different exercises. Transitioning into the start of university, this marked my retirement from competitive soccer. And now that I wasn't playing soccer, I was on my own to figure out how I wanted to go about maintaining my active lifestyle. Since I decided to pursue a double major in bio and kinesiology for my undergrad, I was learning so much about health and fitness through my kin degree that I developed even more of an interest in leading an active lifestyle. And I'm excited to be able to share what I've learned with you through this degree in my future episodes. So naturally, it made sense for me to want to keep up with my habits since I was learning so much about the benefits of exercise in school. To keep up my exercise routine, I signed up for a gym membership at my school. This was by no means a fancy gym and it was often super crowded, but I made it work. And during this time, I never really went to the gym with a plan, but I usually just showed up and started on the cardio machines, and then I searched up ideas for workouts to do while I was doing my cardio. I also remember going to the gym with some of my friends from school, and we would learn from each other. And in addition to my gym workouts, I had to take phys ed courses at school as part of my kin degree. So I got exposed to lots of different types of activities, including yoga, Pilates, track and field, strength training, tennis, aquafit, and dance, which was honestly pretty cool. And I gained an appreciation for a lot of different types of movement, which I otherwise might not have ever been exposed to. I also joined some intramural teams at school, and this is when I started to seek out fitness information on my own, mostly online by following fitness YouTubers. After gaining a few years of experience at the gym, I started to feel more confident, and I eventually upgraded to a membership at my local gym. And as part of the orientation at this gym, I got a few personal training sessions, and this is where I learned how to do the big lifts, including squat, bench, and deadlift. And this helped me to feel more confident to be able to do these on my own, having been given instruction on how to do this with a personal trainer. I'm also grateful to have some friends who are personal trainers, and they supported me with taking my fitness knowledge to the next level at this point. Something that helped me to stay consistent at this time was having a habit tracker and following the 2-day rule. So basically, I wanted to do something active at least every other day. This is what the 2-day rule means, that you don't take more than 2 days off in a row. And I track this by writing it down on my calendar. Keep in mind at this point, I still didn't have a well-structured gym routine or a workout split, but this period of time was really important for me for developing the habit of staying consistent and incorporating physical activity as part of my everyday routine. In 2020, when lockdown hit, I really relied on daily exercise for my well-being. And I was already familiar with home workouts because, as I mentioned, I had been doing these all along. I had a few dumbbells at home. Again, nothing fancy. These were my dad's old school dumbbells from when he was my age. And I also purchased some simple workout equipment like resistance bands. I remember experimenting with a variety of different home workouts, including different YouTube channels and subscribing to some different online workout platforms. And I also went on a ton of walks. This is actually where I developed the habit of walking, because before lockdown, I had never really intentionally gone for walks. And I also did lots of outdoor activities with my friends, like going for hikes, bike rides, and playing tennis. This is something that I've also tried to maintain in my life to this day. I did experience a couple of periods of pretty major burnout, but thankfully I was able to recover. I also took up running for a bit and signed up for a few races, which I enjoyed. And some other important milestones in my life at this time included that I started my fitness social media pages, and I also started my master's in kinesiology. And if you're interested in learning more about my lockdown fitness journey, I actually have a whole video about this on my YouTube channel, so check it out. Moving on to the post-lockdown era of my fitness journey, which really continued until now, I was feeling super motivated to return back to the gym once they had reopened, and in 2022, I purchased my first ever gym program. Also in 2022 was when I started going to weekly yoga classes at the gym, and incorporating programs as well as yoga into my weekly routines has been a game changer in my fitness journey. Fast forward to today, I'm a full-time PhD student, and I like to weightlift at the gym 3 to 4 times a week following a gym program. I also like to do home workouts with my friends once a week over Zoom, which is usually a Pilates or a cardio workout. And this is actually something that started during lockdown, and I'm glad it stuck around to this day. I have a yoga membership and like to go to classes once a week, and I incorporate walking wherever I can, even if it's just a short walk. I also incorporate mobility and stretching wherever I can, which is usually at the beginning and end of my gym workouts. And in the summers, I play soccer non-competitively, which I really enjoy. And I recently took up golf, so I'm learning how to play a new sport at the moment. I'm sure I'll continue to evolve and grow on my fitness journey as I continue to progress through different life stages, and I'm excited to share this growth with all of you. To end things off, I wanted to include a bit of a Q&A about my fitness journey, so I'll respond to the questions that you asked me over on Instagram now. The first question was, what was your fitness journey like when you started? Did you set a goal or was it experimental? This is a really great question, and when I first started, I didn't set any specific goals. Initially, thinking back to when I was playing soccer, I just kind of had to go to soccer because it was an expectation that I was committed to the team and that I would show up for them. And then when I transitioned to working out independently, my goal was again just to show up, which I honestly do think has value because I developed a really excellent foundation in terms of consistency. And at one point, I remember setting the goal that I wanted to exercise 6 times a week. Of course, this 6 times a week included active recovery days and stretching, but just kind of making sure that I was moving at least 6 days a week. And this goal also motivated me to be consistent. It was really only in the past year or so that I started setting fitness goals, and honestly, even now, my fitness goals are pretty vague. My goals are mostly related to completing workout programs and improving my strength on certain lifts. And I would also like to improve my mobility and flexibility. But yeah, all throughout my journey, my goals have been mainly focused on consistency, especially at the beginning. It was very experimental. The next question is, what was a health or fitness myth that you believed at the beginning of your journey? I really like this question, and I'll actually dedicate a whole episode to answering this kind of question. But looking back, I think at the very beginning of my journey was when I was most susceptible to fitness myths. But thankfully, because of my kin degree, a lot of myths were debunked from me pretty early on. Off the top of my head, a few of the biggest myths that I believed included things like the more exercise, the better, because I was definitely overdoing it, especially when I was younger. And then another myth that I would have believed is that, you can do these quick fixes, short-term challenges, or cleanses. I remember doing a cleanse at one point. Those are some of the myths that I believed at the beginning, but I will be circling back to this eventually to dedicate a whole podcast episode to this question. The last question that I'll be answering today is, how did you get over your fear of working out in a gym or public space as a beginner? I really like this question too, and I'll dedicate a whole episode to this as well. But thinking back on my journey, I didn't have a ton of fear at the get-go, especially when I was starting at my university gym. I actually remember walking into the gym in my soccer shorts and just feeling confident enough to hit up the free weights area on my first week of joining that gym. And truly, I feel like everyone should feel this confident from the get-go because the biggest fear a lot of people face, in my opinion, is the fear of what other people will think. But it's important to realize that no one is actually thinking about you or judging you. And if they are, that's a them problem. So hopefully that mindset is helpful. I know it's a pretty commonly shared mindset, but I guess some other tips that are less mindset related and more practical tips would be to go with a friend. So for example, one of my friends we just started working out together within the past year because she was interested in starting a gym routine and asked for some guidance so that we could go together. And originally we would only ever go together, but over the past year, she's developed enough confidence that now she goes to the gym on her own. And so that's definitely a good way to overcome this gym intimidation. Another tip would be to ask a trainer at the gym for an orientation. So for example, in my case, it was the phys ed teacher at my gym or the soccer fitness trainer who really helped to teach me those foundational exercises. Also, going to group classes is helpful because you just show up and the trainer will tell you what to do. Another thing is to learn how to do exercises at home before you go out into a gym setting. Another thing, avoid going during peak hours. So if you can, go to the gym during times when it's less busy. Also, enter with a plan so you know what you're doing. Pick a gym where you feel comfortable. The gym that I currently go to, I actually feel super comfortable in, and I like the setting. I feel like I belong there, and I do some unconventional exercises, but I don't feel self-conscious because I know that everyone there is just kind of focusing on themselves, and it really doesn't affect them if I'm doing these unconventional exercises. So the gym environment definitely makes a difference. And my final tip would be to work out in the group fitness studio. A lot of gyms have a dedicated studio for teaching classes, but if you're going during a time where a class isn't happening, you can usually just work out there. So yeah, hopefully this answers your question about how I overcame my fear, and then also some tips on how you can overcome your fear. But like I said, I can take a deeper dive into this topic in another podcast episode. All right, so that's a little bit of a background on my fitness journey. And I actually really enjoyed reflecting back and realizing how much I've grown over the years, and also how much of a role fitness has played in my life. And I hope this gives you a better understanding of where I'm coming from. It also sheds some light on the types of challenges that I faced, as well as the opportunities that I had that made it easier for me to lead an active lifestyle, maybe compared to someone else. And I encourage you to reflect on your fitness journey and how far you've come, because it is a pretty fulfilling exercise to do that. And this is whether you started 10 years ago or 10 days ago, I'm sure you've grown in that time. To close things off with our final segment, I'd like to feature responses from the Always Active community based on questions that I shared on the Instagram. I really like seeing your responses and getting to know you all a little bit better. And this segment will be included in every episode, so be sure to follow at all.ways.active on Instagram to get involved. The first question I asked was, how long have you been on your fitness journey? 65% of you have been on this journey for over 3 years, 18% haven't started yet, and 18% have less than a year to 3 years of experience. So this is awesome to see that our community is filled with people at all different stages of their journey. And even though we have different levels of experience, I'm sure we can all learn from each other. And many of the strategies that I'll share on this podcast can really be applied regardless of the stage that you're at in your journey. The next question was, which of these is your favorite way to exercise? So cardio training, strength training, sports, or group fitness classes. About half of you prefer strength training, love to see it. 30% prefer sports, 15% group fitness classes, and 7% cardio training. Again, super cool to see the variety of responses here. I personally love all of these different forms of exercise, so it's kind of hard to pick, but if I had to pick one at the moment, I'd say strength training is my fave right now. The next question is, what's your biggest challenge with fitness? And the options I gave were no motivation, busy schedule, limited knowledge, or something else. Most of you responded with lack of time, with 62% of you saying that a busy schedule is your biggest challenge. 25% said no motivation, 8% said limited knowledge, and someone shared that not having others to play sports with is a challenge. So this helps me to understand what types of topics you'd like to hear about on the pod based on the challenges that you're facing. So I'll be sure to share tips that address all of these things in future episodes. And for my final question, I asked you to help me pick the topic for our next episode. And the winner is how to find your favorite way to exercise. So stay tuned for next week and I'll be highlighting this topic. If you would like to have your say in future episodes, again, be sure to follow on the Instagram because I'll be sharing out these polls regularly so that you can help shape the future of this show. And thank you so much to everyone who participated in the polls on Instagram and contributed to this week's episode. It was really fun to review your responses and get to know you all a little bit better. That's all for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed learning about the different segments that will be featured on this show, hearing more about my fitness journey, and then also learning a little bit about members from the community. I'm so excited to share this first ever episode, and I'm looking forward to creating the next one very soon. And let me know how you like this episode so that I can continue making them better. Obviously, this is the first episode. Things are only going to continue to grow and improve with time, so any feedback that you have would be super appreciated so that I can make the podcast more meaningful and helpful for you. Thank you so much for being here. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Always Active podcast. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, and I would be grateful if you could please leave a review. Also, be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at all.ways.active so that your responses can be featured in future episodes. See you next time.